On the night of September 20th, 1916, nearly 60 men began to assemble near Stillwell, Kansas. They gathered into trucks and turned their vehicles west toward Olathe. Their intentions were to murder a murderer. On August 22, 1916, a young man claiming to be Henry Muller arrived at the Bucyrus grain elevator with a load of grain. After purchasing the grain, the elevator operator, knowing Henry Muller to be much older, called authorities thinking this young man had stolen grain from Muller. Henry and Gertrude Muller were a childless farming couple living near Stillwell, Kansas. They often hired men to help around the farm. One of those hired was an unpleasant young man who often kept to himself, named Bert Dudley. Acting on the call from the elevator operator, authorities found Dudley, and he claimed the Mullers had gone to California. Suspicious of foul play, Johnson County Sheriff E.G. Carroll searched the farm. After a short search, Sheriff Carroll sensed the sharp smell of death. Following the odor to an old storm cellar, he discovered the mutilated bodies of Henry and Gertrude. Dudley was immediately arrested and taken to the jail in downtown Olathe. Under lengthy interrogation, Dudley confessed to the murders and explained in detail how he shot both Henry and Gertrude in the back of the head and dragged their bodies to the cellar, and then began selling off their possessions. Later, Dudley would brag about the murder to his cellmate Fred Sickler. He even described other unsolved Johnson County murders that he had committed. Knowing Kansas had no death penalty, Dudley boasted his revenge by saying,
"I'll be out of here in 10 years, maybe, on good behavior. And then I'll cut the heart out of those who testified against me. And that'll be that."
A trial was set, and in one day's time, Dudley was convicted of the murder of the Mullers.
Your Honor, we, the designated jury in Johnson County, Kansas, do find Bert Dudley.
Observers say at the time of the verdict, Dudley just smiled and chewed his gum. The next day, Dudley was sentenced to life in prison. On September 20th, Dudley would spend his last night in Johnson County's jail. The next morning, he would be transported to Lansing State Penitentiary. After midnight on September 21st, the mob that had formed in Stillwell arrived in downtown Olathe and charged into the Johnson County Jail. Sheriff Carroll, who lived in the county jail, was awakened by the commotion, rushed toward the men, firing a warning shot. The mob kept coming, and the sheriff's second shot was deflected away as the mob overpowered him and continued toward Dudley's cell. Breaking down the cell door, they grabbed Dudley and put a noose around his neck and pulled him out of his cell. He reportedly screamed,
I didn't do it! I didn't do it, so help me God! No!
The mob left downtown Olathe, driving east on Park Street. By no coincidence, the mob turned and stopped on Dudley Road, a mile east of town. Dudley was taken from a vehicle to the nearest electrical pole. The rope was thrown over the pole, and he was pulled up by the neck. Not wanting to take any chances, and perhaps a bit eager, the mob drew their weapons and fired. Dudley's body went limp. The deed was done, and the mob disappeared into the darkness. A few hours later, Sheriff Carroll arrived on the scene and found Dudley's body. Carroll later took the body to Ryan Undertaking Parlor in Olathe, and over 15 bullet holes were discovered in Dudley's body. No one claimed the body of Bert Dudley, and he was buried in Olathe's Potter's Field, with only the gravedigger and undertaker as witnesses. The state of Kansas intervened in the incident, and Sheriff Carroll was temporarily removed from duty, only to be reinstated when it was proved he did all he could to stop the mob. The mob clearly made a statement lynching Bert Dudley on Dudley Road. Years later, for fear of the event being immortalized, the city of Olathe changed the name of Dudley Road to Ridgeview. The exact location of the lynching is somewhat disputed, but most believe it took place on the west side of Ridgeview near Wabash Street. The murder of Bert Dudley was the last lynching in the state of Kansas, and the only recorded lynching in Johnson County. The investigation conducted extensive interviews to find those responsible for the murder of Dudley. It has always been assumed the mob was local farmers from the Stillwell area, but no one was ever caught or convicted for the lynching of Bert Dudley.